Man, if what Sig said comes to fruition
It's
and
coming.
all of the like Juwan Johnson excitement, Jamaal Williams excitement, Chris Olave excitement, all just gets cut down by Taysom Hill in week 1, we will be in the full swing of NFL, and that's it. I'll just be done. I'll just stop playing.
I'm looking at my rankings right now. Taysom Hill is my tight end 12, and Juwan Johnson is my tight end 13. So both of them are very, very live streamers.
Oh my gosh, I'm just getting anxiety right now thinking about Taysom Hill. Thank you for that, Sig. Oh, it's good to be back. Week 1, NFL football is finally here, Dave. You know what? I'm too excited. I'm going to take a lap. Here we go. NFL football is back. Dave, I'm so excited.
He's really feeling like the Letterman camera that follows him down the. We need follow with the camera that follows you down the block. Football's back. Football's back. Football's back. Everybody follows you.
It's the Chris Farley where he runs out back into the alley
Picks
and
up
like
the guy,
goes
throws
laps
him in
through
the
the
dumpster.
alley. Yeah.
So happy
Exactly.
that I wore pants for today's video episode.
That makes one of us.
Oh, well, welcome in week 1, starts of the week. I'm Alfredo Brown, joined by Dave Kluge, and we've got our special guest here for week 1, the legend himself, the man that when you think football, guys, you think of him. It's Sigmund Bloom. Sig, thank you so much for joining us this week. We are so happy to have you.
Yeah, well, it's good to be here. This is a special occasion. Every time we get to spend time together is a special occasion. But this is the moment, guys, when the most possible football season could be left. Once we get through today, it just gets shorter and shorter. So let's breathe it in.
What a way to look at it. What a way to look at it. This is like the time of year where everyone still has a little bit of hope. Maybe not the Cardinals fans, but everyone else has like a little bit of hope that maybe their team's going to be good this year.
I drafted Cooper Kupp in the first round of a lot of my
And
leagues,
it's
so
gone.
my hope has already vanished before the season kicked off.
Have you seen all the memes of like the teams that drafted Travis Kelce, Cooper Kupp, Jonathan Taylor, like all at the right times, thinking, I'm just buying the dip.
Yeah.
I'm just buying the dip. And now your team is just dip. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think I might do this year, like convince my home league to fire up another draft like after week 4, once we've seen what we've seen, and then we can play out the remainder of the
That'd be
season.
so fun.
Injuries, all of it, might be fun.
That'd be so fun. Do like a midway through the season redraft, just like change it up.
Yeah.
All new wrench that we're starting here for fantasy football. All right, let's get down to business. We're going to be talking about our starts of the week this week. And, this is going to be a little different. Like, we're not just looking at who's like the MVP of each of these positions and who's like going to finish with the most points. These are players who are likely on the fringe that maybe you're thinking about starting, you're not sure, you're kind of in a bind. We got you. These are going to be our starts of the week. Let's start out with, the most important position in regular football. Maybe not fantasy, but most important position in regular football. And with our QB starts of the week. Sig, why don't you kick us off with your quarterback start of the week?
Yeah, and this is akin to the sleeper column that I do releases later on today on Thursdays. And week 1 is one of the easiest ones to focus this, right? Because it's who did you not draft to start that you might start. Like you look at your team, and it might be because of injuries. Might be there's not any quarterback injuries of note except Joe Burrow, and I get it. Cleveland's defense, Jim Schwartz. Maybe you might say, let's watch Burrow with the different tones we're hearing about what kind of state that calf muscle's in. Maybe Deshaun Watson. I'm not exactly excited to start Deshaun Watson. Maybe even Josh Allen. The Jets gave him some trouble. You never know. So are there attractive enough starts out there? I know when we talked about this behind the scenes, you kicked around Sam Howell, Alfredo. And I want to mention Sam Howell. I mean, really, we could do just really any Washington player. Again, we're just going to dunk on Arizona every 5 minutes in this show. We're just going to dunk on. Sorry, Arizona fans. But I wanted Kenny Pickett, and I think with Kenny Pickett and Daniel Jones could apply to Daniel Jones too, where there's momentum. There's momentum. And sometimes preseason momentum doesn't mean anything, but there's momentum for this offense. And Pickett looked very much in command of this offense. There's talk about George Pickens. There's talk about Deontay Johnson. There's talk about even Allen Robinson and what he can do. Of course, the backfield, the offensive line actually has some positivity around it. So this could be an unveil. Now, Nick Bosa did sign his contract, so he's going to play. But this could definitely be an unveil of Pickett in this offense. Speaking of Joe Burrow, that's the talk, right? He could be a discount Burrow. This could be a discount Cincinnati offense. And since San Francisco is a good yardstick to measure yourself against, I think that Pickett might be up to this one and continue to etch his name in the halls of Pittsburgh lore.
And,
I like it. I wasn't really big on Pickett for the majority of the offseason, but I couldn't ignore what I saw in the preseason. It seems like he is figuring out this offense, and George Pickens looks as good as advertised, and we know Deontay Johnson's going to do his thing. I haven't heard the discount Bengals yet, but I do really, really like that.
And you know what? That secondary last year for San Francisco was actually kind of beatable. I know that we remember the San Francisco defense being really good, but they don't have a lot of the same players in that secondary that they did last year. So, man, if there was ever a time for Kenny Pickett and the Steelers to come out and play well, it's week one. Come out and plant your flag on the Steelers. Dave, you got your quarterback start of the week, and my heart is aflutter right now.
Well, first of all, I want to say, doing starts this time of week or this time of year, I should say, is really hard because you kind of drafted the guys that you know are going to be your starters, and you're starting those guys. I was on Chris Harris's show yesterday, and we were talking about guys who we have different, draft rankings and week one rankings for, and there weren't really a lot of actionable guys. Sig mentioned it. Josh Allen was my pre-draft QB2, and he's my QB6 this week. Does that mean you're benching Josh Allen? Absolutely not. So I'm trying to look at these guys that I had kind of tiered similarly in my draft rankings, the guys that are kind of the high-end QB2s. And Alfredo, we talked about it a lot this offseason, that if you're not getting one of those big 8 guys that you are just locking and loading and starting every single week, you take 2 of these QB2s and you kind of stream them with matchups. And the guy that sits atop that QB2 tier for me this week is Tua Tagovailoa. QB10 in pre-draft rankings, QB8 this week. You were probably starting him anyway, but if you look at this, it's got the second highest over/under of the week. I'm so locked into season long and year outlooks.
You gotta
it's like when you write the wrong year on your checks. Is that people still write checks?
Oh my gosh!
Turn draft brain off.
This week we have football, and this week the Chargers and Dolphins have a 51.5 point over/under, second highest of the week, behind only Kansas City and Detroit. Jeff Wilson, Devin Achane, both nursing injuries. Wilson is already out. We don't know about Achane yet, so they're going to air it out a little bit more. Tyreek Hill and Waddle are 100% healthy, and leaning a little bit into narrative here, but if you look last year, Tua's best games came in warm weather. 260-plus passing yards in every healthy home game. He had that Week 2 game against Baltimore where it was a sunny, beautiful afternoon game, and he went for 469 yards. Had a big game in San Francisco as well, so now in Los Angeles. Hopefully, he can build off of what we saw last year. So some of the guys that I'm starting him ahead of, Trevor Lawrence is probably the spiciest guy there. I think that's just going to be kind of a slow-paced game as they try to really grind the clock in Indianapolis. I've got him ahead of Jared Goff, ahead of Geno Smith, ahead of Deshaun Watson, ahead of Anthony Richardson. So he's one of those guys. If you picked him and, Kirk Cousins and you're not sure who to start this week, I like Tua.
Yeah, that one makes me really happy. Sig, I saw you nodding along. Yeah, I feel like Tua's in. Is he in your wheelhouse this week?
I mean, I want to see it. This is an interesting game. We've got a sturdier Tua. I'm going to be watching. Joey Bosa's back for the Chargers defense. Remember, they didn't have him for most of last year. Teron Armstead's a little banged up. That could be a key matchup. Year 2 with McDaniel offense. You want to see the way I frame this game when we just did the preview. This is if there's a team, a quarterback that can crash the party, the Cincinnati, Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore party, it's the winner of this game. And so I think it's a statement game, even though it's not one of the divisional games. And Tua, like Dave just referencing the over-under, I think is the best argument to throw Tua in because this game could get out of hand in terms of scoring pretty quickly if Brandon Staley's defense isn't up to the task.
Yeah, and I think that's what you have to look at oftentimes. And I know fantasy managers, they just want to know, who do I start at quarterback? Every once in a while, I'll just take a moment, go look at some of those lines, those over-unders, and see what the implied point totals are for the week. And Vegas kind of, for the most part, knows what they're doing. Yeah. And if they're setting these lines somewhere, it's because they expect a whole bunch of points, and that usually means good performances from your quarterbacks. I'm going to finish this off here with the final quarterback start of the week, and I've got Geno Smith going up against the Los Angeles Rams. Geno's going to be playing at home, and the Rams have one of, if not the worst secondary in the league. Dave, I took a second, and Sig, I think you're probably smarter than us when it comes to football, and you know a lot more names, especially on the defensive side because you do IDP. I do not recognize a lot of these players in the Rams defense. I only recognize Aaron Donald and Ahkello Witherspoon.
Yeah.
The rest of the secondary, I see Darian Kendrick, who I remember from Clemson, and Kobe Durant, and some player playing free safety named Russ Yeast. That definitely sounds like a fake player from a Key and Peele skit. This secondary just does not seem good. Like, Sig, am I crazy to think that this might be one of the worst secondaries in the league, if not the worst?
Yeah, well, Arizona.
Okay.
Well, I mean, Arizona
fair.
has Buda Baker. It's tough. I mean, there are some secondaries. There are definitely some secondaries that are going to be throwing out. Indianapolis, they got Kenny Moore. They have some good safeties. But again, there's going to be some. When Cecil and I were previewing these games, I would do a game. I was like, Cecil, name a corner from this. And you're right. Some of these defenses are absolutely anonymous at corner, which is not where you want to be going into the season. The one thing I'll say about Geno Smith against the Rams is, and we've got 8 divisional games this week. So right away, teams come out of the gate. Divisional games are important. And the Rams played Seattle tough. Last year, they played them tough. They took them to overtime in Week 18 when Seattle needed to win. And that was without Kupp and Stafford. So when we look at the matchups on paper with divisional games, there's always a layer to, but how do these two teams, what's the chemical reaction, especially if the coaches are the same, and we're looking at a track record. So Geno Smith did have one really big game when Metcalf and Lockett both went off against the Rams. The second game was a little tougher for them to move the ball. And the other side of the Geno Smith coin here is with Jackson Smith and Jigba playing, with now some reinforcements in the backfield and Charbonnet, younger offensive line getting better. Remember, they start 2 rookies at tackle last year. Now these guys are starting to really grow into their game. Maybe this could be a Seattle offense to show us they're going to be a top 10 offense this year.
Yeah, I love Geno Smith this week, and for all the reasons that you mentioned there. The added weapons in the receiving room, the added weapons in the running back room, that offensive line is maturing, that Rams defense, not good. And you know what? And if this remains a tight game, all that means is that the Seahawks are going to have to keep passing the ball. They're not going to be getting ahead and just trying to run out the clock. So I really like that. Last year we saw Geno average 18.2 points, fantasy points per game against the Rams. So I've got him as my quarterback 11 this week. And on the Sleeper app, you can go and select your sleeper picks as to whether or not these players are going to go over or under a specific total. You can select passing yards, touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. Like, there's so many different things based on the positions. I've got Geno Smith going over 247.5 passing yards. That feels like a pretty good lock for this game, considering that Rams secondary. Now, we're about 12 minutes into this episode here, and if you've been enjoying all the quarterback talk that we've got for you so far, please take a second, like this video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're going to be bringing you episodes every single week. And we've got Sigmund Bloom on here, who he is one of the hosts of the Audible, the longest running show, the flagship show of Football Guys. 18 years, if I'm not mistaken, right, Sig?
Yeah.
I heard it. You guys can vote now.
Vote, military, I think. Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Let's enlist the Audible to cheer up everybody around the world.
I can only hope that we're doing this 18 years from now. But thank you so much for watching this all the way through so far. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment down below with any of your start-sit questions, and we'll get back to you. Guys, let's move on to our tight end starts of the week. Sig, you have one of my favorite tight ends for this year, and I absolutely love him as a streaming tight end pick for this week.
Yeah, and this is one, guys, this one's relevant because if you have Travis Kelce, well, who did you take? Did you take a backup tight end? Uh-oh. Oh, no. So hopefully you did, or hopefully your league has waivers, and you probably weren't taking Sam Laporta. You probably weren't taking Dalton Kincaid. You weren't taking you weren't using a lot of assets on your backup tight end. So Jake Ferguson might have been a guy that you were looking at. Tight ends did very well against the Giants in each of the last 2 games last year for the Cowboys, even whenever Dalton Schultz wasn't playing. Ferguson's had a great summer. And now with more Mike McCarthy, the Cowboys offense. So doesn't that just say Mike McCarthy thrown to the tight end? Nice safe play over the middle of the field. I think Jake Ferguson could have a really nice night in an excellent New York Sunday night, Monday night double dip for us. And Jake Ferguson could be a name everybody's talking about on the week 2 waiver wire.
Yeah, Jake Ferguson, one of my favorite players to tout all offseason, as a guy that I think is going to finish much higher on the fantasy season at the tight end spot than many people thought. And those of you who were drafting him in the last round or picking him up off the waiver wire, once you figured out who he even was, I think you're going to be happy. Dave, you got another guy here at tight end that, once again, I think there was just a lot of fun late round tight ends to pick this season. And this guy, we talk about Jake Ferguson being under the radar. this guy did not deserve to be so under the radar, and he kind of still is. I love this pick for the week.
Yeah, I think one of the most head-scratching things that I saw this offseason, consistently doing these drafts, is Tyler Higbee just stayed in round 14. And you heard every fantasy analyst saying that Tyler Higbee is a smash pick. And he never really raised. He just stayed in that round 14 region all offseason. So I got myself a lot of Tyler Higbee. And this week, looking right now, he's my tight end 6. Might be my tight end 5. Might be my tight end 4, depending on if Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews are able to play or not able to play. Cooper Kupp is obviously out this week, and if we look last year, Tyler Higbee scored 10.6 fantasy points per game in the games that Cooper Kupp missed, which would have been good for tight end 6 last year. So, I kind of kept him as a back-end tight end 1 in my draft rankings, but he is absolutely a start this week. The only guys that I've got ahead of him, Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews, who I talked about, Darren Waller, TJ Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert. That's it. I mean, unless you've got one of those guys, I am okay plugging Tyler Higbee in your lineup this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we're talking about Seattle, who gave up a ton of points to tight ends last year, and like you mentioned, Tyler Higbee essentially being the wide receiver 1 for this team, I think there's a lot of questions on that Rams defense. Now with Cooper Kupp out, there's even more questions on that offense. Tyler Higbee seems to be that guy for Matt Stafford in this case. I'm going to finish us off here at tight end. Oh, Sig, go for it.
Oh,
please.
no, I was just going to say playing Tyler Higbee is like when you would play someone in a video game, they would just button mash and beat you, because it's going to be 11 catches for 50 yards. But like Dave was saying, as Kupp's outlook got cloudier, Higbee should have been going up, and it's a layup. Even though layup is boring and kind of unfair, it does count for 2 points.
And there's almost no ceiling there. You're not going to get besides that one.
He's the Kirk Cousins of the tight end position.
Pretty much, yeah. You know what you're getting. You're getting middling production. He's not going to hurt you. He's not going to excite you, but you can plug him in your lineup and feel kind of good about it this week.
But I do think I think that if there is a week where he is going to blow up and maybe get those 7, 8, 9 catches, something ridiculous, it's a game like this where all week the reports have been the wide receiver 1 for the Rams is Van Jefferson, and there's been all this talk up of Tutu Atwell and Puka Nacua, and I get it, it sounds fun, but Tyler Higbee is the primary target for this Rams offense. So I think if there is
he was one of 4 tight ends last year to lead the team in targets, and he did that with Cooper Kupp playing for half of the year, and then even when he was putting up almost 11 points per game, a lot of those games weren't with Matthew Stafford. So I really like him as a streamer this week.
Yeah, let me finish us off here at the tight end spot. I've got a guy that's going up against the Tennessee Titans this week, and I think there's a lot of excitement around this team. Sig, I know they're local for you, so I'm sure you can speak to the excitement, but Juwan Johnson of the New Orleans Saints going up against the Tennessee Titans. I really like this, mostly because I just think I really like a Saints passing attack this week. They're a little limited at running back, and the Tennessee Titans secondary has been one of the worst, and you can start to sense a theme here of just targeting these bad secondaries. And last year, the Tennessee Titans versus the tight end in 2022 allowed the 4th most fantasy points, 2nd most targets allowed with just over 8 targets per game, and the most receiving yards to tight ends at just over 66 yards per game. I've got Juwan Johnson ranked as my tight end 12. He's the kind of guy with touchdown upside and yard after the catch athleticism. Remember, he's a former wide receiver. This is the kind of guy that, even though I'm ranking him at tight end 12, he could be one of those that surprises us. It happens every year. You get one of those weird tight ends that finishes tight end 2 or tight end 3, and everyone runs their waiver wire to go snatch up Juwan Johnson because he got 2 touchdowns on 4 catches. That's the kind of thing that could happen this week, except I do think that there is a pretty good chance for a volume there. So I've got him as my tight end 12. On these sleeper picks, listen, this seems like an easy one. I'm smashing the over at 26.5 receiving yards for Juwan Johnson. He's the kind of tight end that could do that in 1 to 2 catches because of his athleticism and because of the way that Derek Carr likes to target the tight end down the field like that. So, guys, before we move on here, I just want to let everybody know, we're talking about these rankings, these weekly rankings, and at the end of the day, even when we're done with this, you want to know more about the players that are on your team, and you want to say, okay, who should I be starting? And you're going to have those start-sit decisions. We got 2 ways to help you, okay? Well, 3 ways. 1, you've got these awesome shows here on YouTube, the Audible, Football Guys Fantasy Football Show, and so many other great pieces of content we have here on the YouTube channel. But we've got our rankings that are on the website. Guess what? They're totally free. Totally free for you to go onto the website. All you have to do, drop an email address, and that's it. And you're looking at rankings. It's so simple. You're subscribing to the newsletter. You're getting great information. You're looking at these rankings. It's going to help you with your start-sit situation. And then Sunday mornings, we are back. We are answering your questions live. So you can be with us on Sunday mornings here on the YouTube channel, and we'll be answering all of your start-sit questions. All right, gents, we are moving on to, I think it used to be everyone's favorite position in fantasy football, and now there's a movement. Like, I don't know. Maybe we're not there yet, but let's get to our running back starts of the week. Sig, you got a really underrated player here who I think might surprise people throughout the season, but he's got a juicy matchup in week one.
Again, it's time to dunk on Arizona. But really, but you feel for Jonathan Gannon. You really do. This is your big opportunity. But Brian Robinson, there's almost no way to slice this game script without him getting 20 carries. And I think it's a great game for Sam Howell, for Eric Bieniemy to really get off on the right foot and create some momentum. So the schedule makers did them a favor here. But Robinson should get the volume, should get the touchdown opportunities. And, hey, guys, he wasn't shot a month ago. He didn't get shot in the leg. That should help, right? So
not getting shot.
Right. I mean, that's always better for a player's outlook, right? So, and I'm not trying to make light of the fact that let's give him the due he deserves coming back like a little over a month after getting shot last year. It's maybe possible that we didn't see the best of him because of that. And we should really applaud him just for playing at all that year. Not necessarily that the injuries have kept him out, but wow. So yeah, Brian Robinson, I think that he's going to have one of his best games of the year this week.
Yeah, we've been talking about that Arizona defense, and it just seems really easy to dunk on that team right now. There's a lot of excitement around Sam Howell, and this could be one of those games where Washington gets up early, and they could just be running all over Arizona throughout that game. So I love that pick. Sig, Dave, you've got a guy who has been just, what's the old quote? Is some people are born great and others have greatness thrust upon them. If there was a poster child in the NFL for that phrase of getting greatness thrust upon him, and actually a great hip thrust dance move, it's your pick right here for the running back starts of the week.
Yeah, a move that was so good it got him fined quite a bit of money last year. Jamaal Williams. I mean, this is the obvious one. I don't think I have to dive too deep into this. This is what they drafted him for. Like, if you drafted Jamaal Williams and you aren't playing him in week one, why did you draft Jamaal Williams? Right. Like, this is what you drafted him for. Alvin Kamara suspended for the first 4 weeks. They're saying it looks pretty bleak for Kendre Miller to suit up. That was the last report I saw yesterday. I don't know if anything has changed since, but a hamstring injury that he picked up in the preseason. Sig, you're a New Orleans guy, so you might know this.
Kirk Merritt. He's a New Orleans kid, actually. And former wide receiver.
Not a name I'm too familiar with.
Former wide receiver.
He was in the Dolphins, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And
a practice squad wide receiver.
Yep. Move him to the running back room. And yeah, it's Jamaal Williams. I'll just, not to step on your take, I'll just hope that you don't see Taysom Hill at the goal line. That's all you need. That's all you need. That's what's wild. You mentioned Juwan Johnson, Alfredo, and the Saints actually have 3 guys who could be the sleeper of the week tight end. Because there's also Taysom Hill. He could always be good for a couple of touchdowns. Yep. And don't forget Jimmy Graham, who looked like Jimmy Graham in the last game of the preseason. Yeah, so it's fun. The Saints, and I haven't even mentioned the New Orleans kid who beat cancer this offseason, Foster Moreau, who they signed while he was recovering from cancer. So say kudos to that for the Saints organization.
How funny would that be, though, if, like, last year, Jamaal Williams made a living on vulturing touchdowns, and then this year he gets all of the low-calorie touches and then cedes that work to Taysom Hill at the goal line. That would just be, little monkey's paw right there for anybody that drafted Jamaal Williams hoping he would maintain goal line work. But, yeah, I like Jamaal Williams this week. There's no reason not to. I've got him ahead of some pretty big names this week because of the projected volume. Miles Sanders, Breece Hall, Najee Harris, Raheem Mostert. I'm starting Jamaal Williams over all of them. He slots in as my RB18 this week pretty comfortably.
Man, if what Sig said comes to fruition and all of the Juwan Johnson excitement, Jamaal Williams excitement, Chris Olave excitement, all just gets cut down by Taysom Hill in week 1, we will be in the full swing of NFL, and that's it. I'll just be done. I'll just stop playing.
I'm looking at my rankings right now. Taysom Hill is my tight end 12, and Juwan Johnson is my tight end 13. So both of them are very, very live streamers.
Oh, my gosh. I'm just getting anxiety right now thinking about Taysom Hill. Thank you for that, Sig. All right, let's finish off here with the final running back start of the week. And I stayed local right here in Miami. I went with Raheem Mostert going up against Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers have been one of the worst run defenses in the league. And then you look back at what Mostert was able to do when the backfield was his. In 2022, without Jeff Wilson, he averaged nearly 15 touches per game for 78 yards. That is going to be something that gives you some pretty good fantasy production at a running back position that just it gets a little wishy-washy, even in week one, where you've got injuries you're dealing with and you've got committees. There's very few running backs who are getting nearly 15 touches in a game. Last season, the Chargers gave up the 5th most fantasy points to running backs in 2022. And this game, we talked about how the Chiefs-Lions currently is the highest implied point total. That might change if we get some news here on Travis Kelce. We are recording this on Thursday around 12:30 Eastern, so we haven't heard the news yet, but this could become the highest implied point total for the week. It at least is already for Sunday. I've got Raheem Mostert as my running back 23 for the week, and on Sleeper, you can do the Sleeper pick. I've got him going over 52.5 rushing yards. Seems like a pretty solid choice there. Now, we're going to get...
I'll just say the same thing about Raheem Mostert that I said about Jamaal Williams. If you drafted last weekend and you drafted Raheem Mostert and you aren't playing him week one, why did you draft him? Like, no Jeff Wilson, Devin Achane is hurt. This is when you put him into your lineup. That's, completely with you there.
Dave, I think that's like a masterclass in these contingency players, right? It was when you draft them and you say, okay, well, if so-and-so misses time, this guy's going to be a smash start, and then you're not starting him. It's like all the people that draft Tyler Boyd, and then all of a sudden Jamar Chase or T. Higgins is out, and then you're not starting Tyler Boyd. It's like, why'd you pick him then? What are you doing?
At that point, just cut him. Let somebody else deal with it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, guys, we've gone through quarterbacks, tight ends, running backs. We got one more position group to do. And Sig told me who his wide receiver start of the week is. It's a juicy one. I love it. It's a rookie. So it's spicy. I was thinking about starting this guy. I've got him in a couple of my lineups, and then some places I've got him on the bench. So maybe he can convince me to get this rookie wide receiver in my lineup. Head on over to the audio version of the show. That's where we're going to continue this conversation. Head on over to the audio version of this podcast. We have the link in the description down below. This has been our week one starts of the week with myself, Dave Kluge, and Sigmund Bloom. Thank you so much for watching.